Hello and welcome to Faithify for Musicians. This is a webinar specifically for Unitarian Universalist musicians and friends of music to learn more about Faithify and how to get a project onto the website. We're joined by Yuri Yamamoto and Jed Levine. I'm Halcyon Westall. I'm project manager for Faithify. And then Yuri Yamamoto is music director at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh and the staff accompanist at Meredith College. Yuri is a multifaceted musician, composer, and improviser. She has a charity album, Japan, My Homeland, that features piano improvisations and original settings of Japanese poems. Yuri has raised over $10,000, I think it's over $13,000 for different projects on Faithify, so she knows a lot about how to make a successful campaign on the website. And Jed Levine has been the music director of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Queens in New York City for the past 5 years. He plays piano for the hymns and leads the choir. Jed is especially interested in collaborative ministry and multimedia worship. Jed has run a successful campaign in response to flooding and a fire in their congregation, raising over $4,000 through Faithify. So thank you so much, Yuri and Jed. Jed is going to be joining us a little bit later into our webinar, and we're going to dive right in to thinking about how the site works, how crowdfunding works, and then get on to learning about the specifics of Yuri and Jed's campaigns, and then get to some of your questions. Okay, so very briefly, I think folks nowadays really know what crowdfunding is. It's where you have a great idea and you go out to tell more people about it and they think it's a great idea too, and then they give you some money. That's the simplest way I can describe it. And so Faithify is this platform for crowdfunding, but more than that, it's really a place for inspiring innovation and breaking through boundaries, lowering the walls between congregations and countries and communities, and spreading our Unitarian Universalist values. So the way that we do this is through inspiring and uniting and funding. So people get to go to Faithify, and you might not have a project right now, but you can go and look through all of the different projects and see what other people are doing and get inspired to do something in your area. And you can join with other funders, you can join with other people doing great ministry. And then you can take our values and make a big impact in the world. This is our new website. I don't know if you've been there yet. I can't see you all now. I can see my slides. So if you're nodding and saying, yes, we've all been there, I imagine in my head that's what you're saying. And we're excited because it's a lot more streamlined, and we hope it's a lot more easy to use. It's certainly easier to search through campaigns. There's only a few on here right now for the new site. You can still get to the archive campaigns. Up at the top of the screen, you'll see it says browse campaigns and archive campaigns. The archive campaigns are the ones from the old site. So it takes you over to that page and you can look through them still. But here on this site, you can look at things up by how much time is left on them, the large or small goals, and also by category. So we've got categories for service, for worship, for faith formation. There's all kinds of categories that you can look them up. So I want to tell you about that. Also, I wanted to let you know, if you scroll down the page, you always get an up-to-date list of our stats. Right now, we've raised over $775,000 through pledges to different campaigns. And there's 3,100 funders. So we've got a pretty big crowd at this point. Now, if you had a campaign on the old Faithify site, you have to sign up for a new account on the new site. And I apologize that that needs to happen. We weren't able to migrate all of those old accounts over. So it doesn't take very long. You just, pop in your email and your password and you're all registered. You can get to go to town looking around and creating campaigns. So when you're logged in, your home base is this dashboard, and this is everywhere where you're going to be able to look at campaigns that you have created, campaigns that you funded, and see your impact. You'll be able to see a list of all the pledges you've made, so you can see if it went through, which is a handy new feature. And you've got tools for connecting to Stripe, our payment processor, and MailChimp, and then of course creating a campaign. So if you're going to create a campaign, the first thing you want to do is go to how to post a campaign page, which has lots of resources. We try and think of all of the questions that we've had over the last 2.5 years and try and answer them for you and give you some resources. There's also a blank form of a paper version that you can take to your team if you're working collaboratively and figure out all your answers before you get to the computer. And then we have things like Faithify University, which is an online course, so it's free videos that goes into more detail than you'd ever want about crowdfunding in general and Faithify specifically. So lots of stuff there. And there they are highlighted. And our how-to document is like 5 or 6 pages of really detailed information about what goes into the form. So all that stuff is there, and a frequently asked question page. Really, the biggest questions I get is about the Unitarian Universalist connection. Sometimes people get a little stumped about that, so we can talk about that if people are interested in our question time. How to make the campaign page really engaging, and I know Yuri and Jed are going to talk about that, and promoting your campaign. We're all going to talk about that too. So those are on your mind. Don't worry, we'll get to those. Okay, so musicians, what do you put up there? You can put so many things on Faithify, and there's this and more. There's, I'll just leave the screen up a little bit. There's got some information about what we achieved in 2016 with Faithify, and then ideas where you can go really outside of your regular ask of your network, of your congregation, and be very creative of things, going on trips and bringing speakers in and having benefit concerts and repairing organs and so many different things. I believe this went out over the UUMN list, this poster. If not, I'll make sure it gets out next week. So we've had quite a few campaigns relating to music. Ooh, that went by really quickly. Let me go back for a sec. I don't know if any of you here on this call were involved in any of those. Well, they zip by again. I'm not going to worry about it. But they really ran the gamut. Things like the Revived Love Tour from Standing on the Side of Love was a way of replenishing the spirits of folks working for justice. And that was a tour that went all over the United States. But music was such a strong component of their work. So I included that one here. Things like scholarships for children going to the Musicians Network conference. So very, very direct connection to your work, and maybe something that is not quite as closely connected, but definitely is bringing the strength of music ministry. I've been talking a lot, so I'm just going to stop. I'm going to let Yuri talk some because she's done a lot of work on Faithify. And this slide has your campaigns. Do you want to take it away, Yuri, and tell us a little bit about what compelled you to reach out over Faithify when you were doing these projects?
Okay, so the first campaign, well, actually, the first time, stupidly, I ran 2 campaigns almost simultaneously. That was very difficult, but we got 2 GA workshops approved. One was to bring One Human Family Gospel Choir members, which I am one of them, and then to teach a song and then also do a diversity dialogue at the GA. And then the other one was the stories of Unitarian Universalists of color. We had been doing a book project and we did a panel discussion. So both of them were approved, and many of us were living on the East Coast, but the GA was at the Portland, Oregon. So it was very expensive to travel, plus registration cost and all that stuff. So we didn't have money. And fortunately, one of the editors, pastor, heard about Faithify, and they let us know about the webinar, just like we're doing right now. So I attended the webinar, and then I said, well, this is the only way we could make this happen. So I quickly put things together and actually sweated all the time, all those 60 days, but we made the goals for both. And then after the GA, or maybe during the GA, I started another campaign to support the publishing of the book. And we were going to do a workshop with the new book, but the book's not published yet. It's very close, but it's not published yet. So that campaign was successful. And last fall, I'm an improviser, and my teacher, who does wonderful drum circle leadership, she and I decided to go to Japan to teach some additional techniques to drum circle leaders who had been active in this disaster area since the earthquake. And at that time, she and I weren't sure how UUs would respond to this call, but we did it, and we actually primarily promoted it to the improvising musicians in our network, and we were able to raise enough money. And in this case, we decided if we get more money, we can also buy the instruments and bring them. That's why we have, so we kept promoting it. That's why we have far more than the goal. Yep.
So we don't have Jed yet. Yuri, you're pretty familiar with his project?
Well, it was the GA 2015, I believe. Just before the GA, his church had a fire, and he was actually one of the Faithify promoters as a volunteer.
Yeah, he was on the street team.
Yeah, he was on a team wearing the Faithify t-shirts and running around GA to promote the Faithify. And he and I were talking about possibly doing this campaign to help his church. And he wanted, I guess he will tell us more about it later. He wasn't sure if he can actually create the campaign during the GA so he can talk to people to give money. But he did it, and they raised the money a lot more than they set the goal to. So
yeah, almost $1,400 more than their goal. I'm curious, Yuri, did you feel like as you did the 2 at once as your first time doing it, which is kind of phenomenal. So I imagine getting down to just 1 at a time felt more relaxing, but did it seem like easier? Did it seem like, okay, by the time you did the campaign raising money for your trip to Japan, was it like, okay, I've got this figured out, or were there new things that you were challenged by?
Well, yes and no. So I think the challenge initially was I just hate to ask for money, right? So that was very hard. But when people were like thanking me for letting them know about our work or campaigns, I started getting excited. And they are sometimes surprisingly angels that you never expect. So one of the campaigns, actually, when I was running 2 campaigns, one woman came to me and says, I have $1,000. Where do you want me to put it?
Wow.
So, you just wouldn't expect that kind of large donor, but it happened. So I was able to ask her to wait until, so one of them was like 5 days ahead of the others. Wait until that campaign ends. And if that campaign doesn't end, just make up the difference to make sure that to meet the goal, and then put the rest in the other campaign. And then with the Japan campaign, initially we weren't getting a lot of money, and then one day somebody just put $1,800, which basically topped the whole campaign, and we still had 3 weeks left. So that's when we started asking people, keep giving, we'll use it to buy instruments. So it's been amazing, and it's always unnerving because you might not make it, but I think I got better at asking. I don't mind asking.
So I don't know, I didn't mention when I was talking about the site about all or nothing funding, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like you're talking about Yuri of not making it, you set a goal for your campaign. For example, the Stories of You color, that was a $3,500 goal, and all the pledges come in over the time of your campaign, and the campaign needs to meet $3,500 in pledges, or you don't get any of the money. And some people think, well, how can that be fair? And the reasoning is that in order for your project to be completed successfully out in the world when you're doing it, you're going to need the money that you thought it would cost to do that project. So we want your projects to be successful, and so it needs to have the money that it needs to be successful. And then also it's a big motivator for you as the campaign author and for your donors to say, to your funders to say, okay, this won't make it unless I get to that 3,500. And so there's a lot of energy right at the end, yeah. But there's energy right along.
Yeah.
And we can talk a little bit more about that sort of timeline and promotion. But it works. We have the highest success rate of any crowdfunding platform anywhere, and it's 76% success rate, which is just phenomenal. If you think of, Kickstarter, I think they're at, I used to know this number off the top of my head. It's either the mid 30s or at the very highest low 40s. I will find that out, but it's significantly lower. So that's a little side story there about that. I hope I didn't ruin your train of thought, Yuri.
No, I thought I've already shared everything about the campaign.
Did you find that there was energy among the broader community that wasn't Unitarian Universalist?
So it depends. With the actually One Human Family Choir, even though I primarily ran it and I created the campaign and everything, the money went to the One Human Family, that organization, not to my church. And they said, oh yeah, people will give money, and that community, not many people gave money.
Okay.
So But with the drum circle, primarily that group of people gave.
Okay.
So it's interesting. And also maybe, we can talk more about it, but early on, when I asked one time, I felt bad. It was already bad to ask one time, right? So I didn't ask twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. But if I think about myself, my own self, if email comes, I may see it, and I may think I'm going to give some money to a certain campaign, but I may be busy. I don't always respond the first time I hear about any kind of fundraiser.
Right.
So
they say it takes 5 to 7 times of seeing something before you act.
Yeah. So, but when I used to, I still have a hard time asking for money. So, my feeling is if I had asked more and individually rather than just randomly posting some places or group email, we may have been able to generate more excitement in our community.
It's tricky for sure, which is part of, oh, why is this making fun noises? I'm hoping that you can see the slide I'm seeing, which goes into a little bit more sort of general ideas about using Faithify. And we're starting to get into this already about getting the word out. Like you were saying, like how do you get over that hesitancy about asking for money? But I thought it was interesting, some of our conversations planning for this, Yuri, your thoughts about setting the goal. You were talking about how that was something you had to consider.
I can't remember what that was, but I think for me, the mistakes I often make is I try to set the goal to the minimally needed amount of money and cut every corner. So for example, if we were to fly to Portland, Oregon, there was somebody who was coming all the way from Florida, but in order to cut the cost, I thought she would just fly like a red-eye flight and then just go to GA one day and then fly back or something like that.
Right.
Or willing to take 5:30 in the morning flight because it's cheapest. But in reality, they didn't agree to that.
Strange.
Yeah. So, and then of course I should have known that if people are flying all the way to Portland from North Carolina or Florida, it's hard for your body to. So, even though I was worried that the campaign might not make it if I bumped, say, $500 more, but today I would probably ask for a little more than minimally needed because things change. And I think if it's 500 more, you can probably make it. 5,000 more would be a different story.
For sure.
But you have to actually submit the budget. Oh, no, maybe you don't have to.
No, you do not have to.
But number of projects actually have detailed budget. So I didn't want to just grab a price out of thin air. It had to make some sense to myself.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Some campaigns do list out, this is how we're going to be spending the money. And you can see it in their long description. And I've seen it kind of go folks who might not have a lot of notoriety out in the UU world, or they aren't very well known. I tend to be seeing those folks doing it more, or if they're working with a partner that isn't UU and they want it to seem more trustworthy, or like just more clear what's happening with this money. I see it. I don't see it as often in folks who either are return campaign owner, they've run lots of campaigns, or like just folks really know them out in the UU world. Then I see less of that budgeting. Or if it's a really big number, sometimes we'll see that. You know, we did a campaign for Black Lives Matter Cambridge, and they broke out all of it because they were asking for a sizable amount of money. They wanted to say, here's how we're going to be using it.
There's Jed.
Jed, hello, welcome.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hey, everybody.
So Jed, to sort of bring you up to speed, we went through the basic talking about crowdfunding and the websites. We did a brief introduction into the campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, no, that's not where I want to go. We didn't get to talk in depth about your campaign. Yuri enlightened us about sort of her process with the ones she ran. And we tried to get some basic details about yours, but I would love it if you wanted to talk a little bit more about what brought you to using Faithify for your project.
Sure. I was on my way to General Assembly last year, 2015, and my congregation, there was a fire in my congregation. It's a very old building, and the copper steeple was struck by lightning, and there wasn't any structural damage to the church, but the fire department came, and there was a lot of water damage and flooding. This happened as I was on my way to GA, so I heard about it like shortly after I landed. I was also canvassing for Faithify. I was actually, representing one of the representatives there, and it was just one of these things that was just really, really bizarre in terms of the timing, because the thought occurred to me, well, it sounds like we might want to put up a project. Is that what we call it? Putting up a project?
Sure.
Running
a campaign.
Running a campaign.
Yeah.
So I was, people were asking when I was telling people at the convention what happened. They said, "What can we do? What can we do?" So we figured this would be really a way to help recoup some of the money lost. It was a little bit challenging because the fire the damage had just happened, and we did have insurance, but we knew that the insurance wouldn't cover everything. So not only didn't we know how much the total cost of the damages would be, but we didn't know how much wouldn't be reimbursed by insurance. So it was really, so the hardest part, I would say, or the trickiest part, was coming up with the dollar figure.
Mm.
And I guess one thing to do would be to look to see if there are similar campaigns from the past, to see what amounts they've put up there. And I couldn't really, ours was pretty unique. It was like a kind of an unexpected disaster that happened, And so I kind of went back and forth. I got some feedback. I was talking to the board president, about how much, and, it just made sense that we want to choose an amount that's I guess the largest amount that we're reasonably sure that will be met. So,
right.
So we kind of started throwing numbers back and forth, and also just in terms of considering like how much, just estimating we had to do really, really ballpark figures in terms of dollars, but we came up with $5,000. And I asked them to send me some photos of the damage, which they did, and we put it up as as one of the demonstration projects. So we were kind of talking to people are asking, what is Faithify? And
Right. So you had quite the audience there.
Yeah.
So I see you brought the goal down from that original, because it's here we have it at, so I wasn't working with Faithify then. Was that because you just wanted to make sure that you made the full amount?
I'm not sure what you mean down from the original.
Oh, because I see the goal is 3,500.
Oh.
So maybe there was a conversation about that.
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you're right. I think what happened was we had it is 3,500. That's right. We did bring it down. I think just to kind of we wanted to make sure that it would it would get met. Yeah, that's right.
So then
we actually ended up, and I see here we raised $48.93. So
yeah, you raised a ton more than the goal. That's pretty awesome.
Put up $48.92.
Well, so one of the cool things about the new website, and our last site didn't have this capacity, it was only all or nothing. The new website we're working on there being a open-ended version of a campaign for these disaster relief kind of campaigns. And it wouldn't be for, oh, I'm bringing in a speaker. No, those are still going to be all or nothing. But if it was something like this, where there was a big disaster and folks want to send in money, and we've seen those come along. I think when there was a lot of flooding in Louisiana last year, there was a UU basically crowdfunding, send money to this fund. So we'll be rolling that out this year very soon. So keep those sort of projects in the back of your mind. So those are not the all or nothing. Those are just cumulative funds for disaster relief.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, Yuri's. So I did, I did send out a message to the UUMN list, saying what's going on, asking for support, and through all my, my social networks, and also through the congregation's social networks, through Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And and we were successful. So.
Certainly. And so have you gotten all your repairs done in the congregation?
Finally.
Right on.
Yeah,
that's great.
Finally. It took almost a year.
Wow. Congratulations on it.
The funds did come in very, very handy. And I'm all for Faithify. That's the only project that we've done though.
Yeah.
But I'd be definitely open to doing more.
Great. So looking at so we were talking a little bit about getting the word out and setting goals. Yuri, you had some information you wanted to share about videos, especially on your campaign page. I can't see you. There you are.
So when I was browsing other campaigns, I noticed that the people sometimes had nice videos, and video is something that I really love to make, although mine are not like professional quality or anything, but just I enjoy doing that. So most of my videos, but one couple things that came to mind, and also I learned through, I was in an entrepreneurial ministry training that UU Ministers Association put together for 2 years. And my, video coach told me that a lot of people are used to be talked at. So instead of showing something, why don't you just talk to people? And that was it never occurred to me, maybe because I don't have a TV. But so after that, I started having myself talking to people. And it seems like people responded to that. The other thing that as a musician, I felt really powerful, and music can really elicit emotions. So I usually use either my original or something that I can get permission to use in the background, or maybe start with the music and then start talking over that and that sort of things. But when the video is long, people don't always watch through. The other thing is, I think one time I made 3 or 4 videos and realized almost nobody watched like the third one. So they may be amazing videos, but when people are willing to give, they're not necessarily willing to spend 20 minutes watching all of your videos. They're going to make a decision and then they just do it. So don't spend a lot of time or a lot of money making amazing long video or many videos, and then that's wasted time and resources.
Yeah, keep them punchy.
Yeah.
Oh, great. And you were saying also that sometimes you will use just your phone to make a video, right?
I don't have that, but when we were raising funds for going to Japan, people in Japan actually took some videos on their phones and they sent it to us, and then I had to edit to put the translations, but they're fine. You don't need any fancy. I mean, you can do it, but like I say, don't make it difficult.
Right. Great, thanks. So this is about tax deductible status. Just put this up there to remind us to address it. This is something that the funders do ask about, and it's something that, from my end, they'll ask me, is this project, can I get a tax deductible receipt? And I don't know if your project would qualify. So if you do know that either it's a project like Jed's project, that's for the church, it would have been tax deductible. But some other things might not be. I don't know if the book was a tax deductible project. Was it, Yuri? Was that tax deductible?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So I like that you were encouraging when we were planning, Yuri, you were saying, if you do know, put it on your page, right?
Yeah, I guess we never did put that on the page.
It might be there. I haven't read through them all.
Yeah, I know One Human Family workshops, they actually send the actual tax letters to the people who gave money. But a complicating thing is sometimes people say they don't want to sign up for Faithify. Can I give you cash? Mm-hmm. Or can I give you a check?
Yep. Especially if our older community people might not want to put their credit cards into the computer and things. Right. So sometimes folks will want to give a check or cash directly to you.
Yeah.
Faithify only accepts credit cards. We don't do PayPal, and we don't do checks. In general, I'd say it's not a barrier, but every once in a while there's a funder who's just adamant and doesn't do that. So we try and say, contact the campaign author directly is what we encourage them to do.
Can I ask why you don't do PayPal? Is it too much to set up? Is it too?
I do not know the answer to that question. I will find out. I don't know. I started here in July.
Okay.
And that has not come up as a question yet.
Just curious.
Yeah. It might have been that our old website couldn't. And that's just the way we set things up. So I'll find out.
I know for me, I'm sometimes lazy and sometimes busy. And for me, rather than dig around for my credit card, if I could just do boom, 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 PayPal.
Yeah. I'll bring that question back. I will, when the recording of this goes out, I'll have an answer and I'll attach it to that.
Thanks.
That's a good question.
Hi, Allison.
I think it's one of the maybe breakthrough in my first campaigns. The first Stories of Your Years of Color campaign was one of my choir members. So at the choir, I mean, I didn't want to ask them, but I asked one or two people in the choir, and then they said, you should ask everybody. So I did. And then some people started saying, I don't want to do this. I can give cash. Then this person who said you should do this, he said, I'll collect all the money and then put it into Faithify for you. And I'll even pay the fees myself, is what he said.
That was sweet.
When there's somebody who's, basically they became your campaign manager, right? Or the development manager, whatever.
Right.
It was very wonderful because she was the one who was asking, and she would say things like, I know you all want to give money to the campaign, and if you don't want to do it, give me the cash. And
that's a good workaround.
Yeah, so that was wonderful.
So you mentioned fees, Yuri, so I'll just say real quick, Faithify doesn't collect any fees. We provide this platform, our UUA pays for, my salary and the website hosting and all that business. But our payment processor charges a fee. And so when someone funds your campaign, they're going to be charged a small percentage. I think it's 2.9% plus 30 cents, which is an odd formula, but there it is. So they pay that in addition to, let's say they give $20. So it would be $20 plus the 2.9% and 30 cents. So
and the UUA used to say, would you like to give more money to UUA? Are they still doing that?
It was away for a while, but with the new website, pop-up will come up and say, if you would like to donate to Faithify to help us pay for our site, that'd be great, but you don't have to do it. We love it if you do. So what else is going on? Other tips we had, we were thinking about the amount of work it takes. Both of you, I think, have communicated that it took some doing. It's not something that you just put up the campaign and forget about it.
Well, mine was, I didn't have any time for planning, really. It's just something that happened, and the director of the board president and I were like back and forth on the phone like at least 10 times. But if but there still was planning involved in that. It's just that we didn't have a lot of time to do it. It must be less stressful to kind of plan it from start to finish. I guess like some of the projects you've done, Yuri. How long has it typically taken you to plan a project, Yuri?
You mean to set up this campaign?
Start to finish, from the time you first have the idea until the time that it actually goes live.
You're asking a last minute person, so, but wait, you did it in probably 2 days, right?
Less.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like a day.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get it, people coming by the booth, so.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends, because to make a video, I think in one case, it wasn't just my video, so I couldn't just take it that night and do it. I had to wait until we can meet and then take the video. And then after the video, we, I had to process it and all that. So I would say maybe it took me about 5-7 days, but I wasn't always working on it. Some of it was just if I wanted to interview a specific person. For example, one Human Family Choir director, I definitely wanted her to be interviewed. And I also included members talking about how how they love the group and that sort of things. So those are the videos. I mean, some of those videos nobody watched.
Right, right.
But,
Yeah, from my end, I can see when someone starts working on a campaign, and sort of some folks, their draft takes days, weeks even, and some people, they put it up and they're ready to go. So it really runs the gamut as far as getting the project up there. I think using those tools, those preparation tools, can sort of condense your time as far as gathering everything before you get to the computer too.
I see that. Oh,
I wanted to.
We're
getting close on time, so I want to make sure we get to people's questions. What was your point, Jen?
No, I was looking at Jim Scott's question.
Oh, I didn't get to see it yet. Can you read it out for us?
It says the fund for UISM only funds organizations or churches. May an individual make a pitch, or does it need to be a church or group?
So an individual, an organization, a group, a congregation, anybody can post a campaign on Faithify. It's not limited. And that's one of the sort of revolutionary things about Faithify, is it kind of democratizes the funding process. It's not like a grant panel, right, where you get your application in and you send it to some room and you don't really see what happens, and maybe it gets funded and maybe it doesn't. This is all very transparent. You put it up there and see if people will fund it.
I think when the question came up at Faithify, we were at that time saying that, as long as it, is connected to Unitarian Universalism, and I guess that can be interpreted in different ways, but so I guess it's up to the Faithify people just to decide, right? Is this you enough to?
Yep. The most important question on the application form is, how is this project claimed by Unitarian Universalism, and how does it claim Unitarian Universalism? And that is the one question that we always zero right in on. But there's plenty of crowdfunding websites out there. There's only one that is a Unitarian Universalist crowdfunding website. And so we want to make sure everything has a strong connection.
But the answer can be, the person who's doing this work is a lifelong born again Unitarian Universalist, or whatever. Or it's I remember saying something about first principle is this, and this project is about that principle. So I think my take on that is Faithify wants us to really think what it means to be Unitarian Universalist, to be doing this campaign or this work.
That's so well said, Yuri. That's great.
So it could be, it could be even a Presbyterian church across from your UU church, whom you had ongoing relationship, and then that church burned down, and then we want to help them. I think there are ways to actually word it. It's almost how can you be persuasive on that, is how I look at it. But one big difference is if it's an individual doing a campaign, it's likely not going to be tax deductible.
Right. That's a good thing to bring up. Unless you're, a nonprofit, sort of incorporated person.
Yeah, and for Jim, Jim, your songs, if that's what you're thinking, your music is basically your music. So I think there are many ways to,
There's several paragraphs right on this exact topic in the how to post a campaign and the frequently asked questions. So if this seems a little muddy, you can check out that info too, where
and you can submit deeper and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, one other thing is, if your campaign doesn't make it, you can actually set up another campaign with lesser goals, and then reach out to all the people who had pledged to your initial campaign that's not meeting the goal, and then ask them to pledge again, just to tell them their money won't be taken twice.
Yeah, none of the pledges get processed if it doesn't meet the goal. So you can go ahead and run it again. I'm sorry, Jed, were you going to say something?
No.
So in some way, this meeting the goal requirement is not absolute. Faithify won't say, well, you said that you needed $3,000. Now you're asking $2,000. They won't say that.
I think
I don't think
the caveat there is you need to demonstrate on your new campaign how it's still going to be a successful project at that other goal level. You know, with a lower amount of money, will you still be able to accomplish the project? I think you'd have to make that clear to your funders, you know. What was that?
I did want to add one thing, actually. The other experience I have is with Kickstarter. And when I did the Kickstarter campaign, I expected that we would just put this up and then the search engines will do their thing and the money's going to start rolling in. I don't know if you covered this before I got on, but
not really. Go for it.
But you really have to put yourself out there, and you have to, I guess, learn how to be comfortable with asking for money, and find that line when it starts to feel like, okay, I don't want to like over ask and, ask too much and sound like I'm begging and all this stuff. But the point is that you really have to, I mean, in my case, honestly, it was the event itself that actually got the money. It wasn't so much of just letting people know that this happened, because everybody pulled together and they were like, wow, this is one of our churches. How can we help? So that, but in other cases, I think you really have to, Yuri probably can speak to this better, but you really have to put yourself out there.
Yeah. I think initially when I took a webinar, Faithify was like, there are already all these people wanting to give money.
That was at the beginning where we thought that was the case.
Yeah, well, but it's true. All these people wanting to give money, but you have to let them know that your campaign exists, right? And then they may be your own friends, but I mean, I realized the vast majority of the people who gave money were the people I knew, but not all of them. Sometimes the first one was somebody I never heard of. Maybe only $10 or $15, but somebody found it on a Faithify site and gave it.
And that UU crowd has been growing over the past 2.5 years, and it's been a longer process than we thought for it to grow, but now it has sort of established itself. I want to open it up. I'm not able to read the chat, so I think there might be a question in there. Yuri or Jed, could you?
Yes. Since you're answering me directly, I'll make it personal. This is from Jim Scott.
Okay.
I did get a grant for the Earth and Spirit Songbook from the Fund for UUism. It was to the UU Ministry for the Earth, and I gave them a percentage, but they essentially paid me most of the money toward funding the travel, research, and for the committee that chose songs. I'd like to do that again with my own business. It would covering expenses of a number of people as well as costs of a book. But it would be better to find an umbrella group, or is there a precedent for individual actions?
I don't have the whole list of campaigns in front of me. We certainly have had individual actions before, not as many, but we have had successful individuals raise money for something in this line where they're doing work and it's connected to a larger ministry in Unitarian Universalism. It's not like this is work you're doing that's only going to be used by you. There's there's greater good in there. Ooh, things are happening.
I think well, for example, a lot of ministers have raised their ordination cost.
Yep.
That's very personal.
Well,
thing.
and it's communal.
Well, I mean, it's a community too, but yeah. And Jim, I think it depends on how you write the campaign. And the other thing that reminded me is the Faithify doesn't require you to have thank you gifts kind of thing.
No.
But we've done it before.
Rewards, you mean?
Rewards, yeah. And it's kind of a mixed bag. It adds a lot more work afterwards. And I don't know if people give specifically for that. I know some people did, but so.
I see that we've gotten to the top of the hour, Yuri. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to, if people needed to head out, I want to honor their time, and I want to thank everybody for joining us for the webinar. I have a few more minutes. I don't know if Yuri or Jed have a few more minutes. We can stick around and answer a couple more questions.
Sure.
And I can keep those on the recording going. If you have to leave, you can hear them later or stay with us.
I did have a question about the rewards, but what got answered. So that is possible to offer rewards?
We don't have rewards as part of our website. If you want to figure out a way to communicate that in your description and say, everybody who funds, I'm going to send them, sheet music for this song I wrote or whatever. You can do that, but we don't have that mechanism in our site.
Okay.
Yeah, so we actually did, I think we made it too complicating. And in the end, in one case, we said, well, it's been 6 months since, so we're just going to give them all to you or something like that. But it was just, initially we were like, if you give so much, you get this. If you give so much, you get that. But it's a lot of work at the end.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can do one level, maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It hasn't really come up with folks as, how come I'm not getting a reward for for funding this project? And I think maybe it's part of it being an explicitly Unitarian Universalist site that sort of the dynamic around it is a little bit different than some of the others, which are more of a consumer kind of site. Like I won't name names, but some of the other crowdfunding sites where rewards are expected.
For us, giving is its own reward, right?
Right, yeah.
I'll just say yeah.
But for example, if somebody wants to produce a new album, that's kind of typical outside the UU world. But let's say if some people start using that for Faithify, it's, to me, is very legitimate to expect, like, if at certain level I can get an album, right? Something like that. So, but I don't think there had been very many that kind of production type things yet. So we were at the point where, we know we have to send all these books to the people. So we need to make sure that there's money left to send them.
All right.
You received the contact information of everyone who donated?
Yes.
You get their name, a contact email, and you get the amount that they donated. That's all sent to you as a spreadsheet so that you can follow up with them. Yep. Any other questions on your mind? Well, I want to thank Yuri and Jed for coming and sharing your experience, your success on Faithify. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
really hoping, mostly we want to encourage folks to just try it, give it a go. You know, I think, Yuri, from your entrepreneurial ministry training, that was a big message, right? Of,
Yeah.
what was it? Fail.
Minimum viable product, and then try fast and fail, try and fail fast to learn.
Right. Well,
Yeah, so don't make up this grand project with grand site, and then you spend all your energies already.
yeah, I mean, we certainly don't hope that you fail, but we hope that you try it. And don't worry too much. You know, do a great job with your campaign, bring the energy, and get your message out there. And then we're here on the other side to help you and answer questions and do what we can to make sure that you're successful too.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to ask me specific questions, I'd be happy to. So, well, that's my intention.
Well, and I totally hope I hear from you. Give me a call. My email is halcyon@faithify.org, or you can do info@faithify.org, which is much easier to spell. And I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.